Hello, I'm Colleen Fritz. I'm a speech language pathologist and I'm an assistive technology specialist. And today we're going to talk about core vocabulary and fringe vocabulary. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And present. Okay, core versus fringe vocabulary and how to use it. So today we have some learning objectives. One, I want to make sure we know the definition of augmentative alternative communication, and we usually say AAC. We're also going to define and identify core and fringe vocabulary. We will discuss what communication routines and lessons may be happening in the classroom or your classroom, and we'll identify 3 routines or lessons to target core vocabulary. So I wanted to make sure everybody had an understanding of what augmentative alternative communication is. So we have students in the school district that might be primarily nonverbal, unintelligible, or they have limited numbers of words that they're able to produce. Those students need access to augmentative alternative communication, AAC. They're going to need another way to convey their message, especially when their language is quite full and they have a lot of words. They're just not able to produce them through speech. AAC can take on various modes. If the student is literate, they can use the written word, type it out, write it out, and show people their message. Children can use picture communication symbols. They might be using sign language. If they have vision issues, they might be using tactile symbols. So there's a number of modes that may be employed. Also, just remember we can use our gestures or our facial expressions to let people know how we feel about something. So core vocabulary versus fringe vocabulary. Believe it or not, 80% of what we say and or write falls into a category called core vocabulary. And that's a set of words, about 250 to 400 words that we use over and over again in conversations, in our written expression. And it goes across gender, age, topic, setting, and disability. So those are some key words that we use over and over again. So for example, I just said over, over, over again. And over and again are core words. Core vocabulary does not lend itself to pictures. And as I said before, many of our students are using picture communication symbols to be able to communicate a message, especially if they're not able to read all of the words that are available to them. So if you look at the word ball versus play, ball is easy to take a photograph of or to draw a picture of. Play, we could come up with many different pictures or drawings that might represent the word play. So core vocabulary does not always lend itself easily to pictures. Fringe vocabulary, on the other hand, it does lend itself to pictures, It's more specific than core vocabulary. And it may be different for different people. So for example, today I've been talking about augmentative alternative communication. That's probably something that you haven't said today or this week or maybe even this month. But if you have students that have augmentative alternative communication, you would be using those words. Those would be fringe words that would be specific to your vocabulary. And they make up about 20% of what is said in any given conversation. And they're mostly nouns. So here are some words. Take a look at these words and go ahead and pick out or circle with your finger the ones that you feel are the core words. So you can see the words apple, big, pencil, paper, help, open, bus, want. All right, here they are circled. So big, help, open, want are core words, and we use those words often in our messages that we communicate to one another. Now, for school, we do use the word pencil, paper, bus, and apple quite a bit, but they don't have as much weight as big, help, open, and want. Here is a Core 30 communication board that we use here in Palm Beach County. And you can get access to this board in a number of ways. If you're part of the AT Google Classroom, we have them posted there. When we're back at school and we have access to SharePoint, actually we do have access to SharePoint right now. You can go to ESC SharePoint to the Assistive Technology tab, and there are folders in there with AAC and core boards. So you can get the core board from there. And it is in a printable format for you. But if you take a look at the core board, these are the top 30 words that young people use, that children use, that are AAC users. So we took a look at the research. What are the first words toddlers say? And the research applied this to AAC users. And in the research that we used here in Palm Beach County, these were the top 30 words. And if you notice, they're organized. So I have all my people words in yellow, and I have them in a column. To the left, you see green words. These are all action words or verbs. I've placed 2 orange words down here. These are things. Then you see the pink words. We call those little words. They're usually articles or prepositions. You see a question word here in gray. The purple words are places, and then the blue words are descriptor words, adjectives, adverbs, or some nouns that tell you something. This is another board that we use. It's called the Core 90 board. And we have expanded from the 30 words to the 90 words, the top 90 words. And if you take a look, something that's very important when you're working with students who use AAC is they learn where a word is located. So we want to keep it in the same spot. So when we looked at going from the 30 to the 90, we also wanted to keep the integrity of where the symbols originally were, but then keep the integrity of all the verbs together, the people together, the things together, etc. So what we did to make it easier, all of the words that have a large border are our 30 beginning words, so that you can quickly find them when you move that student to the 90, or when you switch from the 30 to a 90, depending on the activity that you're doing. So once again, these core boards available to you. If you're not able to get to the AT Google Classroom or ESC SharePoint, you can also email me and I can send you a printable copy. So what do we do with these core words? What do we do with these communication boards? Well, we all have communication routines in our classroom. Here are some that I'm sure happen in your classroom. Arrival and dismissal, greetings, play for young kids, leisure activities for middle school or high school kids, story time, reading activities, morning routine, meal time, and more. So there are a number of activities or communication routines that happen on a daily basis. And these routines are a great place to target core vocabulary. So if we were looking at talking about a story, we might use words like, I like it. Or if we were getting ready to go home or to lunch or to the playground, we might say, you go, I go there. And when you get to the door, you can say to your teacher, go or stop. Stop. It's not time to go. It's snack time, and they want to ask for something. I want it, or want more, or want some. So there's a number of ways that you could use the core boards during an activity. When you expand to the 90 board, you have a lot more vocabulary. So you might talk about a sequence of something. Well, first, we're going to do our math. Next, we're going to do our science. Last, we will do our reading. You can also talk about today or what's happening right now. Maybe you're working on the concepts, same and different. Or you might be asking a question, who or where? Where do we go next? A lot of different things you can put together. You can greet. Hello. You can talk about how you feel during the day. So we have a number of communication routines, and I gave you some examples of how to use that communication board to talk to your students. Oftentimes we think the communication board or the communication device is just for the student. But just as if I was teaching you sign language, if I don't do the sign, you're going to have difficulty being able to copy that sign. So if I don't model that sign, it's going to be much harder for you to learn the sign stop or help or whatever that sign might be that you're teaching your student. Same thing for when you're using a communication board. If you don't use it to talk to them, they're not going to learn how to use it to talk to you. And that's something we call aided language stimulation. That's when you use the core board to highlight words in your message. You use the core board to support what the student is telling you. So if the student reaches out to grab a toy or to grab some goldfish, you can then use the board to say, I think you're trying to tell me something. I think you're trying to tell me I want, while you're accessing the communication board. You can use the core board to suggest to the student what he or she might want to say. I think you might want to tell me how you feel. You might want to tell me happy, sad, or mad. And then pause and give them time to look at what you've said to them, to give them time to be able to say something back to you. You can use these core boards to read a book. You can use the core boards for everything. The most important thing is that you're modeling for your students how you can talk using the board. And then as we've talked in other sessions we've had together, don't forget about that wait time. You talk with the board and then give a lot of pause time for them to be able to have a chance to talk to you with the board. So thank you all for joining me today. And I hope that this presentation helped you and supported your work in your classrooms. Have a good day.